Hi, I'm so excited. Dick Algier, did I say your last name?
Geyer.
Oh, Geyer. Oh, Geyer.
It's like, who was I talking to? I did the GFS program yesterday, and he said, Geyer or Al Geyer. And I said, no, it was Al Geyer, my news director when I was on TV when I was
You
young.
were an anchor?
Yeah, I was a news anchor, but that was another life. He said, if you don't do good, I'm going to call you Control Geyer. But if you do well, you can be All Geyer.
Now I'll never forget it. All Geyer.
In high school, I was a photographer because my dad had cameras. And so I became the school newspaper photographer. And I thought it was cool because I could get a small pass to go work on the school newspaper. So for me, if you were in class, you get in trouble. But I had like these all access hall passes so I could wander around and not be in class. Like I'm on assignment. And so then in college, I got an internship and became a reporter. And for me, what a cool job to go get to do interesting things, to like the volcanoes erupting, fly to the Big Island to see the volcano.
Where did you live at this point?
That was when I was in Hawaii. I moved to Hawaii in '85. I was originally a newscaster in Salt Lake City, Utah. Just interesting things would happen and you get to go witness them and we're paid to do it. So I had a natural curiosity. One day in 1996, I was driving to work and I used to listen to news radio. This was prior to the internet. So I'm driving to work. This was in Hawaii from one side of the island over through the rainforest, over the mountains. Beautiful drive. Going to work in the afternoon, I would listen to the news radio, the news headlines at the top of the hour,
Like 10 wins or one of those, yeah.
What's going to happen today? And coming back, it would be 11 at night. And that news radio broadcast a show that was coast to coast AM with Art Bell. Did you ever hear?
Yeah, Art Bell, I know, but also, isn't that George Norrie?
Art Bell preceded George Norrie. So I heard Art Bell talking about something called remote viewing. And I went, if that's true, I got to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that's the coolest thing ever.
And so I trained as a remote viewer. Luckily, there's a guy here in Hawaii that was never publicized, but he was kind of underground. He was U.S. Army Special Forces intelligence named Glenn Wheaton, and he was in a top secret unit that he left in the early 90s. When it was declassified, he started teaching. So I started learning from him. So here I am at the end of my career in the I'm a mainstream newscaster. I go put on a suit and tie, and like just have very strict and legitimate. I'm Dick Allgaier, and this is the news. But in my spare time, I'm remote viewing, and I got going to Mars, and I'm seeing all this kind of stuff.
Juxtaposition between where you are. You're playing two lives.
Yeah, we're doing work for the police department on this secretly. Like, hey, we got a missing person. What can you tell us? And so I go to a news conference with that detective. And I pretend you don't know me, like I don't know you. But meanwhile, I'm slipping him information. So it was a double life. They're very careful when you're on TV. You don't want to soil that image. I've retired from TV.
No, you haven't. I feel like you're getting a resurgence because you have this great personality when you're up there with the whiteboard and you're describing things and you can just feel the energy. So I think this might be a start to like your own little show, podcast, whatever.
We're developing quite a little media empire at futureforecastinggroup.com. We're expanding and doing more and more. So if ever I feel the need to be on camera, and I do once in a while, I put on a Hawaiian shirt and I turn on a camera and I do a segment for YouTube or a segment for our subscribers. I still have that.
I remember you came out and were like, listen, we want just to make sure that because the timelines can change, but if people can look at it and say, I don't consent to this timeline and let's create something better versus the fear factor, which feeds into it, it's so important what you're doing.
Well, 2 years ago, we were doing a standard target that was something else. It was a future financial target. And all the viewers got this 9/11 where we saw people shooting each other and bombs going off and this dramatic sneak attack deal. And this was summer of 3, I think it was. We missed this target, like it was a financial target, but we got this death and destruction and mayhem, and it feels like it's going to be the next 9/11. And we thought, should we publish that? Should we say that? And we actually had meetings with all the viewers like, guys, what do you think? Like, we don't be fear porn alarmist.
Yeah, you don't want to solidify the timeline either. I get it too.
Yeah. And we're like, what if we're wrong? We don't want to scare people. We looked at our data, and because it corroborated, like 5 different viewers had similar things, we put it out. And so a month before the Hamas attack in Israel, October 7th, we put that out and showed it. So that was.
I remember that you guys had the power, everything was on there, and it was just like so detailed. And that's, I think, when I was like, wow, they know what's up. Like these people are really legit.
Responsible. There's a lot of fear porn out there, and we don't feed that. But that one was one that we did.
The recent one that you just, I don't know if you can talk about it yet. I mean, that had like a feel to it that was like biblical almost, and like so spiritual with the people. And I'm like thinking, is this really happening? Like the Pope just died, and then Schwab stepped down, and all these changes are happening. And we're supposed to come into this age of light after, we break down the old system. So all of this seems to be occurring. And I don't know if you have any viewpoint on the Pope thing, because that's, a lot of people are like, what?
I'll tell you. This is something most people will tell you. I grab my notes. Say the president of the United States is the most powerful man in the world. That is certainly not true. Here's my understanding. Excuse me. I have a little pillows.
I'm like so curious about if you're about to talk about the 3 levels of popes.
Yeah.
They're like,
My understanding is this: the highest authority, human authority on earth, is the Pope. The Catholic Church owns the world. They conquered it. The white Pope, in terms of power, is the Archbishop Metropolites and Archbishop. Below that, crowned monarchs. So you have rare families that are rare bloodlines throughout history. Below that is cardinals in the Catholic Church. Below that would be grand masters, heritors, and these are the secret orders and
Freemasons.
So, in a secret to be in a rare, you have to have a rare bloodline. It's like you're chosen, you're given the secret knowledge. And to be a Freemason, you don't have to have rare blood, but you have to go through a lot of vetting.
Initiations, vettings.
This is a 30th degree Scottish Freemason.
33rd degree one. Actually,
Well,
one of them is a wizard, and he works for, I won't say anything else, it works for Discovery.
I'm a wizard. My remote viewing teacher is a wizard. I'll tell you some stuff.
What? Well, this is weird. I met a male wizard and female wizard literally within a year span, and like all this other stuff. This is great. And now you know a wizard? This isn't. I've never.
Yeah. Okay. So if I finish the flow chart, below that is viceroys, and viceroys are the representative of the crowned monarchs who oversee land owned by the monarch, a legal title land. So if you take the United States, that is owned allegedly by the crown royal family.
Right. It all goes back to Queen Victoria and the allodial titles and, well, yeah. Wait. Now, can I give you my assessment and tell me, because you're a remote viewer, you must know this is true or not. So you didn't mention, you said the Pope, but there's the white Pope, there's the black Pope, and the gray Pope.
That's my source on that. I know there's a black.
So above that, the gray Pope, and above the gray Pope are the Orsinis, the Medicis. I hope it's okay saying all this. And that whole bloodline is the original. And then it goes deeper. Then it goes into the.
It goes off planet.
Then it goes ETs, and then it goes into Archon. It goes into many levels, and then it goes into the spiritual and the other dimensional levels. You got it. So
this place didn't just happen. Like this planet and this moon, they tell us this story that like, oh, here's this planet, and there was this primordial ooze, and somehow an organic chemical formed out through light, and the lightning struck or something, and then a single-celled organism came about, and then it evolved. And it evolved to have eyes.
Sure. And then 200,000 years ago, just stopped and created a whole new species called Homo sapien, which basically had slightly different genetics. What happened there? I mean, there's so many.
Created as a petri dish.
Exactly. A living library is what the Earth experiment's about.
Yes, exactly. DNA is a mechanical replication tool. So DNA
antenna too.
The raw materials of this Earth. And they actually had, I remote viewed this one. Now, my news director would hear this and go, God, I can't believe we put this guy on TV. He's friggin' crazy. But I saw I forget what the target was. Oh, the target was uh, creation of the Grand Canyon or some cataclysmic event like that.
Is there a Sphinx under there or in the four corners of the United States?
Out of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know that there's ET.
I saw the keeper of the DNA. Like there's somebody,
Runs a quantum simulation that we're in.
but they have a library of DNA, and they can. Okay.
That's what Noah had, DNA, not two of every animal. He had DNA.
Yeah, it's a allegory. So they can look at certain parameters of the environment and create DNA or tweak it and create something that will have the gravity specific levels of CO2 and oxygen.
Like how we were created from Mars, but then when the Mars civilization blew up and they moved us here, that's why our bodies are more calibrated with Mars.
They create this body, this Earth suit, and they bring a cell into it, and the cell gets put into it.
But then you've remote viewed how you take the soul out. Like there's, I know it exists that the soul can be extracted. There's different technologies. There's jump gates. Like, does that where it gets really weird because it's multiple dimensions, or is this actually still happening within this dimension?
Authoritatively on that because as a most really not omniscient. You get little snatches of things, and I don't recall actually remote viewing that.
Do you remember the moon? Did you go to the moon? Because that's another one that I know I'm up there somewhere. There's like a copy of me, a genetic copy or something, a clone. And I know I'm up there going like, I'm going to get you out of there. Don't worry. Because I know it's fake and I always have been known it's fake. It's been pulled in 12,500 years ago. Right?
It's a nice planet, but they needed something to create the tide.
The tidal lock, but it was also the lock for the third dimensional matrix over the 5-dimensional original quantum grid.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, okay. So we're on the same page here. So we really are in a simulation, but it's hard to for everyone to understand that. But the proof is there because if it is rendered, like Dolores Cannon said, as you go into a stadium, no one is there. But when you're there, you're rendering that crowd. And those crowds are representatives of energy, but not everybody's like a soul. It's just an extra in your play. That's rendering. That's like a computer program, like a game.
Take this back to remote viewing.
Yes, back to remote viewing.
Essence, and this is why we're all psychic. It's why you're psychic and are able to do that. That's why I'm able to do that. I've had things happen when I was younger. First good I ever fell in love with. I puppy love in high school. Very conscious. I was so in love with her. Parent-teacher night or something. So we had like 2 days off. So I said, I want to go to a movie. And she said, oh, I got to go see my grandmother. I went, okay, see you the next night. So that night I had a dream. I saw her with a guy that I knew from another situation. Didn't know that he knew. I saw them together. So I go on the next day with her. I said, I have this really weird dream. I saw you with this guy named Scott that I know from the Smith that I go to. And she said, why did you bring that up? I said, this dream. She goes, seen me or something? I said, no. How did I know that? I left my dog at home in Utah. I was going to bring him out, but they had this draconian, you had to put them in a kennel because of rabies for like 6 months or something. And I thought, I can't put him through that. And so I left him there, but I felt awful about it. And I had a dream one night that he came to me in the dream and looked at me and telepathically said, why are you doing this to me? Where are you? And I told my sister that, and she said, Mom and Dad gave him away. They thought he'd be happier on a farm, and I had a bad feeling, and I went just yesterday, and he was chained up out in the snow near death, and I rescued him. And I said, I dreamed that. Everybody has a subconscious awareness that is in this greater field of consciousness. Consciousness is a dimension. There's a dimension of consciousness where all information, everything is all happening. Now, everything that's ever happened or going to happen is resonating. When we get our souls married to these bodies, are having this experience. So we're perceiving things with stereoscopic vision.
1% of the visible spectrum, right?
Symbolic antenna, audio antennas, and but it focuses on this very narrow band.
Is that the reticular activating system, the RAS, where your brain actually hones in? So it's looking for specific things. Like if you get a new car that's a Mini Cooper, all of a sudden you start seeing Mini Coopers everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like similar. It's like a programming thing that we do to ourselves almost.
It teaches you a way to dispense a portion of your awareness into that other consciousness field, and it's a series of very ritualistic programmed queries. So you query the same way every time. You create an ideogram and you touch it and you instantly know. You close your eyes and look.
How many times do you have to do it to memorize that first blueprint or whatever you're doing to get it?
It takes months and months. There's like 230 things you got to learn to pick up your pen. It's like a Japanese tea ceremony.
It's almost like an initiation, wax on, wax off. There's you have to do every certain way.
But same thing every time.
Power because it's like a superpower that you're. Is it because it's you're doing the same thing every time with the same target? You said.
Yeah, in the remote viewing protocol, every time I look at, okay, they just gave me a target, and let me look at the target IDs. So they give us just a target reference number. We do only double blind. So talking about the ritualistic protocol, they just gave me a target, and it was Z8I9BG3. That could be anything, anywhere. Okay, I'm going to sit down and I have to give a report, a 20-minute report on Z8I9B2.
I didn't even know what to do.
I'm not a psychic, for God's sakes. How can I ever do that? But what I do is I get my mind right and I realize that is a target, C8I9B2G3. I'm gonna report a call. So I have a clean desk, a clean stack of paper, my pen laid out. I pick up the pen and I go like this and I write the word ideogram. I slide over, I write page 1, colon, Dick, colon. I draw a line across the page, I write the target ID, memorize the target ID, write it again. I close my eyes, I project that target ID up in my visual field. We call it third eye, but they call it, the Army called it blackboard. And then I open my eyes and then I look for 2 seconds and I draw whatever I saw. So I don't have to be psychic and figure out what this is. I just have to do the next thing. And then I write the target ID and I make an instinctive scribble. And I probe it and I say, is this simplex or complex? Is it hard or soft? Is it non-negative? Is it moving or at rest? And step by step, little thing like, see a countryside. So throughout the course of an hour, like,
Do you think it's quantum entangled within that framework of numbers and you're tapping into the deal?
what happens is we have a person that is the most important link in the remote viewing process. It's the targeteer. If someone selects this target, they want us to work this target, well, they give a package of all the information about the target to the targeteer. He goes on a computer and generates he goes to random.org and generates the random letters and numbers. And then there's a ritualistic thing he does where he, with a clean desk, a clean line, sits down, recites that target ID, and quantum entangles that with the target. So that, in essence, becomes the address. So remote viewing is, in essence, time travel, because what I'm doing, gradually getting new bits of data about that target, like what does it smell like there? What does it feel like? What are the colors? I'm emulating that target. And by emulating, I am quantum entangling my consciousness with the target. And then I manifest that in my primary awareness.
So basically, remote viewing is what we're going to be able to do without the mathematical or the other parts of it. It's just going to be like mental telepathy at some point because what we're doing is focusing your skills and your attention through the ritual to get your mind in that frequency. And then when you're in that frequency, you're able to almost be on that same almost frequency of the event. So you're getting data like sent back and forth. But if we have mental telepathy, it's the same thing as you think of a friend and they call, but it'll be more specific. Like you'll be like, Jane is asking me a question. Okay. Because we'll be more quantum entangled, I would think, with the us having more of a telepathic higher DNA.
Others know when their children are in trouble.
Right. It's that natural DNA connection. Right. Or twins. Twins is another big one. They always have twins, always feel like identical twins. If something happens to one, the other will feel it. It usually manifests in some capacity.
We're part of the universe. So our atoms are actually, what was the song we have, Stardust?
Calcium, nitrogen, all of it are made the same stuff.
Yeah, it's all a result of some nuclear or whatever, however, stars.
Or does this resonate from anything? Maybe it's just us in a higher version of ourselves that could be appearing as ascended masters or archangels or whatever. And we are giving ourselves our own test that we asked and set up with the blueprint. Like, I'd like to meet so and so at this point, I'd like to have this conversation. I'd like to have these exit points or potential learning points and remind me when I'm here because make it so synchronistic that I will wake up. Like everything that's geared towards, I don't know if you've experienced it, but there's no way unless my higher self was me that that person would know exactly the way my mind works and exactly the things that I would like versus someone like you, because it's almost as if they are you to be able to know you that well. So if they are you and God's within you, and even, Jesus and Yeshua taught all this, the kingdom of God is within us and we are part of God, then aren't we all just one ball of source energy or divine creator? Or
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you how my remote viewing teacher wizardry, some wizard tricks that he called it synchronicity, we called it coincidence, and what we were taught was that there's no real randomness, that consciousness cooperates. So things aren't random. Things happen through the cooperation of consciousness. And when I trained with Glenn Wheaton for 18 years, every week we had classes and we got into really advanced stuff. When we got to where we could remotely go, okay, we go to his house and we would sit around the table. There'd be like 6 or 8 of us, and we'd have a bag or a box with poker chips, blue and white poker chips all mixed up. And he'd say, okay, I want you to reach in and just randomly put out 3 poker chips, like blue, blue, red, red, blue, blue, red, blue, go around the table, blue, blue, red. So we did that for a while, like 3 iterations. And then one of the viewers pulled out red, blue. And Glenn goes, okay. He said, I want you to look under your seat and see what, and he goes, oh, there's a piece of paper. He goes, open the piece of paper and see what it says. It says, on the 3rd round, Jason would put out.
wow, that's crazy.
And I later, some months later said, Glenn, how did you do that? And he goes, before you guys came, I sat down in every chair and I played every game. I selected randomly, and I selected on this one when Jason would sit there. He played every one and did it.
So it's almost like he tested the energy of each spot to almost timeline
Environment.
the environment, not to pick up on what would happen in the future, but to actually entrain the current environment because it's all now.
Okay, there's another one he did where he was giving a lecture on how remote viewing works and how entrainment and other things.
Real quick, do you want to give like a 2-second, 5 second summary about like remote viewing and how you said you took a piece of your consciousness, but then do you have to use numbers or do you just give in that sequence? Do you have to use like parallels and different longitude and latitude? Because that's what I thought it was.
That's how it started. They were testing psychics to see if they could describe a distant location. So they did a map and they'd go like latitude 173, longitude 28, or whatever, and that was a place on a map, and that happened to be a lake next to a mountain. The remote viewer said, I see a lake and there's a mountain, and they could check it out. And the skeptics were saying, well, maybe these psychics have memorized every latitude and longitude. They can just go, okay, I know that's in Canada. And so what they realized was that they could mix up the numbers. They could randomize the numbers, and the remote viewers could still do it. It wasn't the intent.
Consciousness is not localized, so it's the intention. That's what's amazing about it.
I could use a music or a ditty as a remote viewing target. Like if I looked at the target and I played, this target is, and if I played that for a remote viewer, they could use that as a target too.
Basically, if you do this practice initiation, it's like karate. You're learning a skill, right? You're getting your body and everything trained, and then it becomes like second nature. And then when you're trying to learn something new, it almost just knows what to do because it's already following that kind of sequence and protocol. And then it's like just makes that association that it knows how to do it. So can't we apply, this is like Neo, can we apply this technique to like everything? Like there's got to be some sort of ritual that you can do that then like once you learn the process, it can replicate each process that's similar.
What happened is after years of doing the protocol of the survey time, it opens up a communication pathway so you don't need to do the ritual anymore. I'm getting to the point where I can remote view by just, okay, what is it?
That's the thing that's so
things come to me and they just occur. It opens the pathway.
So that learning process that you went through, I feel like in this new energy, instead of having to go through those typical rituals and learnings and everything else, there'll be a ritual or a lesson, or we'll get to a point where we passed our lessons and then they'll just be almost instant versus like having to hone it because that's what stopped me from taking a remote viewing class is I have no spatial awareness. Like I can never tell where it's just the way I am. So when I saw latitude and longitude, I'm like, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at that. But now that you're saying it's, if you follow this almost ritual, then it almost programs your avatar to be able to do these things, like to step out of its box of a mind.
I just went to Korea. My wife is Korean, and we went there to visit and do some other things. And so there's a Korean YouTuber there that's really interested in consciousness and remote viewing and UFOs stuff. So I have done a program with him. So he said, "Will you teach a class?" I said, "I can't teach it remote viewing in one day, but I'll do an introductory lecture." So I took some targets. I got the target ID. That is a Korean letter. I don't really read Korean. Nine, another Korean letter. Same way they helped me do this. And that was so I gave them just introductories. I said, close your eyes, look up at an angle, focus about when you read a book and write that target ID. And then open your eyes, and when I said go, then close your eyes and look for 2 seconds. Go, stop, draw what you saw. And the target was a wave, this perfect wave called pipeline.
The pipeline when you're surfing and you can.
This Korean woman drew a perfect spiral. She drew the wave perfectly. Another guy drew something like this. He said it's right on top. So then I gave them a target that was the tallest building in Seoul, Korea, called Lotte Tower. And they drew long salient lines. And I gave them a crop circle, and they drew a circle with circles within it.
Like the most advanced you've seen, or are they like that good, or
There's something called the first timers effect.
it's like that beginner's luck they call it. Because you're not thinking.
Story.
Because thinking is what gets you in trouble.
Trained for 6 months. The Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild, that's the people that trained with Glenn. He bought a roulette wheel
Roulette 15 and 30. Yep.
in his house. And he took Monopoly game pieces like house, shoe, car, and so.
Hey, real quick, do you remember him having a monocle? The guy from Monopoly, the little character on the phone.
Yeah, do not pass go.
Yeah, with the monocle, he doesn't anymore. Mandela effect. It never existed. And I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, but no. They're saying it never existed. It's one of the things. I'm like, come on, stop it.
Right. Okay, so we have these game pieces, and we referred to each other as Mr. Shoe or Mr. House or Mr. Car. That was part of the entrainment. And we have these trained remote viewers, and the first person would, position number one, which would be like Mr. Shoe. Mr. Shoe would have to decide, is it going to be red or black? And he would intuitively say black. And the second person says, just have to know first 12, second 12, or third 12, and would determine that. And then the third person, like Mr. Carr, would place bets on the second 12, everything black. And we practiced that, and we got to where, after a while, the ball would fall where we expected it to be. We would observe it. We wouldn't cause it. We would observe it. And so we practiced.
Focusing on the same number, like 15, and then it would go there?
Someone would make a decision where black. And so the ball's going to hit in a red space, okay? We're going to watch that, and it's going to hit in a red space in the second 12 numbers. And if it hits on the second 12, it's going to be this number, this number, this number. Each person had basically a binary choice. So we went to Las Vegas to a remote viewing convention, and we went into it. We went and we found a roulette wheel, and we agreed, this one looks good. We like this one. And we stood there and we said, well, Mr. Sheila, are you ready? Yes, Mr. Collar. How about you, Mr. House? Yes, I'm ready. The croupier is looking at us like, these guys are crazy. And Mr. House said, I'm going to bet red because I can only bet red. And the other person said, I'm going to bet the third 12. Ding, 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 ding. We sat there and it went red 11 in a row. And we were hit a winning streak that was Las Vegas has its own training. Las Vegas.
The cooler's there to stop purposely, which is energy. They have a cooler. So they know all about it.
If we could out and train Las Vegas, it would be a feat because the lights and the sounds, you can't find a background, you can't find your way out.
When you say entrain, you give people an identity so that they step out of who they are. They're entrained to be part of that script, almost like.
We were Running, I still have mine.
So you're telling me,
Having the tokens, the amulets in our hand.
are you telling me that when people act like acting and they get together with the intention of playing a certain role, like you guys were, that they are now in this almost frequency bubble of connection and it makes them be able to entrain their consciousness almost like quantum entangle it easier because they're all the same?
Yeah,
Like,
they're in training and environment. Environment can be trained. So we practiced this for months of how we would do this. And we went to Las Vegas. We took our game pieces. We held these talismans and we had done what we rehearsed. We said red, second 12 this summer. And we did very well. We weren't gambling. We didn't care about the money. We just wanted to see the result. We were there to observe.
did you do this on purpose because you can remote view? Did you realize I have a gambling problem and that like this is probably something that's like very emotional for me because I love roulette and gambling? Or was this just like a guess? Because you probably used the most perfect example for someone like me and like how that you couldn't actually, because I always said this, I'm like, gambling is about the frequency and the timing because the algorithm is already set and it's random, but it's about your timing and your higher self knowing. And everybody like, you're insane.
We're playing this game where we bet on black first 12 and had the numbers, and we bet red, and the ball spun around, and it dropped in a number, and it bounced out of the wheel, popped up, and went into the pit somewhere else, and they had to halt everything and bring the pit boss in, and they were like, man, what just happened?
Pause the game for that.
So my teacher was, as we were rehearsing this, gave a lecture, and I have this on videotape somewhere because I was videotaping it. He gave this 30-minute lecture standing at his roulette wheel, and there was a pawn, a chess pawn on like red 6, but we didn't know that.
But isn't that like the stopper for when they pay you? They left it on there? The Monopoly game.
Red 6. And he just stood there and I went, oh my God, it just landed in he had that, the whole time he was lecturing, he had the piece on that.
What's the number to sign up for the course for remote?
It's at rev setting classes. You go to future forecasters, futureforecasters.com. We should teach you because we've had several women that were naturally psychic and have your natural ability. And some of them come in and they say, this is too militaristic, it's too structured, it's too, what's the word? It's too rigorous. It's a bad way to say disciplined, like it.
Like, God.
It's too confining. Others, there was one named Rose Kopp who was a great natural psychic, and she said, this guy's the sensei, he's the teacher.
I always tell people a sensei.
Exactly like you said, and she became amazing remote viewer. Amazing. I'll give you the introductory course. We'll let you try it.
And I never would have even said it except for somebody from the Montauk Project reached out to me and I was like, Montauk Project, really? And he gave me all this info, but he goes, you're a remote viewer. And I was like, I'm a half a psychic. I'm not really a remote viewer. He goes, no, you're a remote viewer. And then I thought maybe my half a psychic and seeing these timelines that I see play out, sometimes good, bad, is remote viewing and I don't know it. So I am so appreciative because this is like my dream to be able to like learn and not have to do math.
Let me tell you how this works. Please, you have to draw a line backwards. You have to draw a matrix. You have to label it. You have to probe a little thing and then instantly get it. And there's all these triggers. When you start a session, there is no moment for the next 45 minutes that you get to think your own thought or every movement is prescribed. You're going to move your pen and put your eyes a certain way, look for a certain amount of time, write an answer, and it's all like very mechanical.
All to block your conscious mind from interfering.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, when you're talking with me right now, you are in beta awareness. You are fully engaged. You're fully conscious. You're fully in the here and now. You're absolutely 100% aware of all your surroundings. You're focused. Yeah. In that state, if I ask you about like if I told you, remember what a banana smells like?
I do.
Okay. So when you're in that alert consciousness, your target contact is limited to. If you linger longer, your imagination intrudes in it. If I tell you look for the target now, whatever you see is your subconscious. But if I say to you, imagine the Pope in a clown suit getting out of a Volkswagen, it's going to take you a few seconds to visualize that. That's your imagination. You want to keep imagination at bay. So as you're working with very structured and demanding protocols, about 20 to 30 minutes in, you get engrossed in that. And it's like when you're reading a book, you're not aware of turning the pages, you're just following the story. So you go into an alpha awareness, daydreaming state.
I'm always in
Now,
more.
you're not really thinking about being at your desk. You're thinking more about the target, and stuff starts bubbling up. Like, oh, there's a guy and he's angry about something and he's yelling at people, and people don't like him because he demanded something, but it starts cascading. Then this was brilliant. The special forces guys that figured this out. After about an hour, there's a moment where you can put down your pen, you put a gentle pressure on your optic, on your eyeball, do a breathing exercise, you come to a full stop. Yeah, I don't know. It's like
It's programmed into you with this whole routine.
this method of your thumb is the same width as your eyeball, so you're putting it.
Wow. You're
And then
really.
you rest your arms, you rest them very gently. Anyway,
Wow.
you gotta rest your elbows on the table.
Okay, I'm going to learn a lot from this. This is.
I'm teaching advanced program. It's like 6 minutes. I'm trying to explain is that you've been working for an hour. You've gone from very alert to daydreaming, and now we give you a mental exercise that takes you to that moment between sleep and awake.
Right. It's almost like.
Where the dream starts, and you have experiential contact with it.
This is my favorite part. I was a lucid dreamer for many years where I literally had even a test I talked about on one of the podcasts where I would like see, because I'm modest, I try to like take my clothes off in the dream and I'd be like, oh my God, if I wouldn't do that, then I'm not dreaming. And if I would, it'd be like, oh my God, I'm definitely dreaming. And once I was lucid, it was the best feeling I've ever had because it was like no fear, no anxiety, but you can create anything and you know you're not going to get in trouble and you can have any experience. Is anything with remote viewing kind of like that? Like, are you actually an avatar that you're remote viewing and people, because I've heard people can see you, people can.
I'll explain how it is for me. He gave me a target, I think 12 years ago. It was target, he just said, it's a target 15A. It's a new project, it's saying. And so I got on the computer and I generated L7V.
Just out of the blue, it came to you subconsciously.
I said, that's target 15 that Courtney wants me to remote
Right.
view. And so I did the thing, and I saw a building that was kind of gothic looking, like a European style building. And then I saw a city street, and there were people there. And then I got better target contact, and I'm out, I'm doing the meditative thing. And all of a sudden, this little patch of green came into my field of vision, and it expanded, and I knew it was grass, and I go, okay, it's happening, a little part of me. And I'm in this park, and there's green grass, and I could see the sky was blue, but it was not summer. It was blue sky, but the sun was weak.
Right.
It wasn't a summer day, it was blue sky, but the sun was weak. And there was green grass, and there was people that were about 50 to 100 yards away, and there was a road off to my side, and there was an old lamppost, like a lamppost from the east. And I go, I'm here. What am I supposed to see? Because you have no idea what the target is. And I go, why am I here? What am I going to see? And I go, okay, there's grass, there's people over there, there's old buildings, and there's a lamppost, and there's a road right here. And I started thinking about it too much. Like, okay, I got to see this, I got to see this, I got to remember it. And my conscious mind started analyzing it. And I woke up, and I was at my desk. And I was going, man, that was so vivid.
So you actually wake up from it, like you're in it. It's almost like a dream.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I kind of jerked, and I'm at my desk. Oh, I was remote viewing.
Does it really DMT? Think it's like DMT released or something that puts you in that trance from this ritual?
No, it was that moment when you're watching TV and you're tired and
I love that feeling.
but you're in the TV. I saw that 10 seconds in that park, in the street, and the lampposts and the people in the buildings, and I drew that, and then I go, I know that was the target, but why is that interesting? And so I went back, and then I saw these people, and I go, this is like a flash mob. It's like people, they all came here, and they're dressed in like office clothes.
Right. Like they just left work to do something, right?
Like, why did they come here? Like a flash mob. They're going to see something or somebody came because something's going to happen. They're all going to look at it, and then they're looking at it, and then all of a sudden go, "Oh my God! Oh yeah, it was the Kennedy assassination." I woke up in Dealey Plaza. I was there. I experienced Dealey Plaza as full experiential reality.
And once you did that, did you go back in and like were you able to tap back into ones that
Target was.
how long did
Hey, I go. Target is a city street, and people come to look at.
figure it out?
And then they all, and some spooked him, and they all went, "Oh my God!" And there was gunshots. And later, kind of figured it out.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
The initial moment of what I was trying to describe was, you've heard by the target. It could be Mars. It could be the Templars, doing something, or it could
silent treasure.
the financials crash is going to be 2 months from now. And in this park, why am I in this park on a sunny day, but it's not hot? So, yeah, the experiential.
By like knowing and doing it with experience, it actually gives you that advantage because you can like then put pieces together of your past of like, oh wait, I did see that. If you keep copious notes or if you like you can piece together puzzle pieces that you didn't know.
My teacher can get to that state and maintain it for quite a while and replay it. It's really hard for me. I don't always get there. I always get some good data, pretty much. But I get there, I get thinking about it. Like, I'm here, I'm seeing it, what I need to see. And
Are you very sensitive to light, sound, and just in general to life? Like you feel things more than others?
yeah, well, it's hard because I've been remote viewing 25 years or 27 years. Like, I can stand next to someone in a supermarket and go, "They're having a really bad day. The daughter's going to get an abortion now." And like, does everybody know that? Like, can't you see someone and go, "I can see a child and know what they're going to look like when they're old"? Or I can see an old person and know what they look like when they were young. And I try to remember, like, did I do that as an adult before remote viewing? I don't think so. It changes you.
I feel like you're almost born with this potential and you're driven towards that goal because it's in your blueprint. Like, oh, I'd love to, be a remote viewer or be able to be a seer. And maybe it's tied to being a seer or an oracle in a past life or somebody that, brought forth information. But literally, I was an oracle and that makes sense because I'm blind in one eye and I, could see myself like sitting over like one of those places by myself where people come to me because I love the couch and I love not to leave.
There's this fabulous psychic in Hawaii named Lan Vo, this Vietnamese lady. And my teacher, when the U.S. military was devising remote viewing, they were scouring the civilian world for psychics. And they found Ron Bo, and he went and had a reading with her and said she was really good. So I finally had a reading with her 4 years ago. She had me in tears in 10 seconds.
You were psychic?
And she said, I'll tell you,
Yeah,
I have a couple of good law and Bo stories. She said, your friend died, and I just had a friend die, and I was like in tears. Okay, here's my best law and Bo story. I had done a couple of readings with her. In the first reading, she went, "I had a serious head injury, is why I left TV News. I got hurt on a news story. I whacked my head and had a brain injury." She said, "You hit your head." She said, "You was very serious. You almost died." She said, "God woke you up." And she went, "You do what I do. People around the world see you. They look you see for them and you tell them what you see."
Yes, you're a seer. So she knew it.
Okay, so I'll get real emotional on this. We had this exceptional woman from Japan named Hitomi Akamatsu who contacted us at the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild, and she said, "I'm coming to Hawaii and you'll teach me." I'm like, and she goes, "I'm coming to Hawaii so you can teach me." I'm like, "Well, we don't have a class." She goes, "Well, I'll be there and you can teach me." So she came and she got a hotel room and we gave her intensive training, and she would train with other remote viewing teachers, and she was really good. I made a documentary about her called Hitomi and the God Particle. I gave her the God Particle as a remote viewing target. And it was the most spectacular thing, and I happened to record it.
Documentary on that? Let's get it out there.
Well, I'll show you that. I'll give you the link. But
See that? That's amazing. I know.
she was working with us, and I don't think she was fully human. She was like, I remember the name. She was a very, very special person. And she was in Brazil she disappeared, and the people who worked with said, "We need to do a remote viewing. Like, tell me he's not been seen." And she was murdered. She lost her life. She was killed.
Is it because of her?
I was very not easy for me. It was a tremendous loss to humanity. This beautiful young woman who was just so gifted, and somebody's she went on to the next place. A few nights later, Ron Vale's assistant called me. I was writing a song. But I didn't tell anybody about it. I was producing a song for Adonia. I was working with another musician privately, but the song was Time to Go. But this wasn't made public. This was all private. The surveillance picture of her in a white dress was the last picture when she was walking to where she was abducted and killed. So anyway, I'm dealing with that. And Lonzo, the great psychic, her assistant called me and said, "Lonzo needs to talk to you." And I said, "Wow, why is it?" Because Lonzo, it takes like sometimes 6 months to get an appointment with her. She's so popular. She said, "Lonzo needs to talk to you." So okay. So I get on with Lonzo on Zoom. It was during coronavirus. And Lonzo said, "The woman who died, your friend, she came to me in a dream and